Okay. Oh. Oh my goodness. Guys, I have been so sick. I have this cough. I don't know what it is. I know it's like flu season, but I got all the vaccines. I went to like my primary care doctor and she couldn't find anything wrong with me, so I was referred to a specialist. I go there and he runs all these tests on me and finally comes up with a diagnosis. He says, "You might want to sit down for this. You have lucky girl syndrome." Hey guys, it's Amanda, and today I want to talk about lucky girl syndrome. Though it may sound like a disease, lucky girl syndrome is not, in fact, an ailment. It's TikTok's latest manifestation technique that boils down to the idea that if you believe everything will work out for you, everything will work out for you. Whether it's as small as finding a parking spot in a crowded lot, or as big as getting a raise. If you're thinking, wait, isn't that just the law of attraction? You'd be right. But doesn't lucky girl syndrome sound more interesting? Lucky girl syndrome first came to my attention when I saw this video that has nearly 1 million likes on TikTok.
Eat our favorite meal from home while we tell you about our experiment that we ran while we were at college, because it literally kind of changed our life.
Okay, so I saw this TikTok that was like this girl talking about her favorite affirmations, and she said that she was always just like, I don't know why, but everything just works out for me. Like, I don't understand why, but the universe always makes things work out for me. Like, it was
Like,
just,
I'm so lucky.
were just like,
We're
I'm
so lucky.
lucky.
Everything works out.
I'm so lucky that everything just always like works for us.
Basically, these two college students detail how their lives changed after constantly repeating the affirmation, "Everything just works out for us." After a few weeks of saying this, they had a TikTok go viral, got their rooms of choice in a new apartment, and one girl even scored above average on her Spanish final. This is one of the most popular TikToks about lucky girl syndrome, and I think it blew up because the girls provided evidence about how lucky girl syndrome has tangibly improved their lives, even though these upgrades are quite simple and could be easily taken for granted. So what, if anything, is wrong with two seemingly normal girls celebrating small wins under the guise of lucky girl syndrome? Because if you've seen my videos before, you know there's always something afoot. Though lucky girl syndrome has become quite popular, there is a small but vocal minority pointing out its flaws, and the qualms people have with lucky girl syndrome are the qualms people have had with new age notions like the law of attraction for years.
Let's talk about lucky girl syndrome. So before there was lucky girl syndrome, there was The Secret and Things Are Always Working Out for Me. Older millennials know. Before that, there was Think and Go Rich. Before that, there was Prosperity Gospel. If this is your first experience of this stuff, I know how intoxicating and tempting and seductive it can be. Especially when you've got people on here being like, it's neuroscience, it's quantum physics. It's not. Of course, it can be fun and comforting to believe that more good things are coming to you and that when things don't go well, it's all leading you back to more good things. But if you're going to believe that your attitude, your thoughts, determine how other people treat you, how your life unfolds, what opportunities you get, you are suggesting that people of colour, women, disabled people, fat people, all these groups who are marginalised in our society are marginalised because of their attitudes.
If you search lucky girl syndrome on TikTok, most of the people promoting it appear to be middle class, conventionally attractive, able-bodied white women. So it begs the question, is it lucky girl syndrome that's making your life so great, or is it just privilege? To start off, let's dive into the origin story of lucky girl syndrome, which of course leads back to the law of attraction. The law of attraction is a philosophical and metaphysical concept that states like attracts like, and that positive or negative thoughts and emotions can have a significant impact on a person's life. While the origins of the law of attraction are difficult to pinpoint, the concept can be traced back to ancient spiritual and philosophical traditions from all around the world. One of the earliest known references to the law of attraction can be found in Hindu scripture the Upanishads, which were written around 800 BCE. The Upanishads describe the concept of like attracts like, and how a person's thoughts and actions can shape the reality. In the early 19th century, the law of attraction gained popularity in the Western world through the teachings of the New Thought movement. New Thought was a spiritual movement that emphasized the power of positive thinking and the law of attraction. Many of the leaders of the New Thought movement, such as Ralph Waldo Emerson, Phineas Quimby, and Mary Baker Eddy, believed that a person's thoughts could shape the reality, and that positive thoughts could lead to success, happiness, and abundance. In the early 20th century, the law of attraction gained even more popularity through the works of authors like William Walker Atkinson and Napoleon Hill. Atkinson's book, Thought, Vibration, or The Law of Attraction in the Thought World, and Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, both emphasize the power of positive thinking and the law of attraction as a tool for achieving success. Clearly, the law of attraction has been written about extensively, but the one piece of media that catapulted it to the mainstream was The Secret. The Secret was first released as a documentary in 2006, and the book was also published later that year. A few years ago, I started to watch The Secret because I was dabbling in my manifestation era, which I will talk more about later in this video. I never finished it, but last week I decided it would be the perfect thing to watch while I procrastinated making this video. Depending on your perspective, this documentary is either the corniest or campiest thing you will ever lay your eyes on.
Throughout history, all the great minds, all the great leaders, all the great achievers, they had something in common.
Honestly, no, it's corny. It's just plain corny. Any documentary with ancient Egyptian reenactment scenes is definitively outside the camp canon. The central idea of The Secret, like all the aforementioned text, is that the law of attraction can be used to achieve success, happiness, and abundance. The Secret documentary presents this idea through a series of interviews with self-help gurus, authors, and speakers who espouse the inner workings of the law of attraction. The thing is, there aren't really any inner workings of the law of attraction because it's a belief, not the scientifically proven concept that The Secret makes it out to be. The law of attraction, The Secret says, works because your thoughts emit frequencies that attract things of similar frequencies. One example an interviewee in the film references is that if you always think about debt, debt will show up in your life. Surely that explains the $1.7 trillion student loan crisis. The documentary also features testimonials from people who claim to have used the law of attraction to achieve success in their lives. One man bought his dream home through vision boarding, and through manifestation, one woman took her love life from lackluster to plentiful. While the law of attraction isn't science, it's similar to the well-researched psychological concept of confirmation bias. In a blog post titled "The Staggering Bullshit of The Secret," Mark Manson explains, "As human beings, we have a limited amount of attention for all the stuff going on around us. Therefore, whether we realize it or not, usually not, we are always choosing what we pay attention to. The confirmation bias is the human mind's tendency to notice and pay more attention to objects and experiences that match its pre-existing thoughts and beliefs. It does this for the simple reason that it is biologically economical and efficient. So your thoughts won't actually inform your reality, but they do inform what you notice." This kind of sounds like the viral Lucky Girl Syndrome TikTok I mentioned earlier.
I went above average on my Spanish final. Yeah, everything just works out.
One girl's proof of Lucky Girl Syndrome was that she passed her Spanish exam. You kind of have a 50% chance of passing any exam, and if you show up to class, you'll probably pass it. So is it really Lucky Girl Syndrome, you know? Thinking positively and noticing positive things in and of itself isn't harmful, but the degree to which The Secret promotes this can be problematic. Ignoring warning signs and red flags because they are negative thoughts can end disastrously. The notion that you bring bad things into your life by thinking negative thoughts is also very harmful. It's like saying slavery was a choice. It ignores the harsh realities of systemic barriers and oppression and places blame on individuals while ignoring glaringly obvious institutional issues. The concept of lucky girl syndrome and the law of attraction is relatively toothless as a tool for achieving specific goals. Vision boarding and writing about your dream life might be corny, but hey, it's motivation and sometimes it works. However, the law of attraction as an overarching approach to life and the idea that things you literally can't control are a direct result of your thoughts is dangerous. While Lucky Girl Syndrome is a somewhat sugar-coated version of the law of attraction, I think, or at least I hope, that its latest devotees are taking it with a grain of salt more than anything else. The teachings of The Secret and the law of attraction become especially dangerous when they are applied without any other forms of action, meaning that you think everything can be brought to you through wishful thinking. For example, it's one thing to practice positive thinking in addition to following a doctor-recommended treatment plan for, say, cancer, but it's an entirely different story if one were to replace chemotherapy with positive thinking. This isn't to say that positivity is completely futile, though. In an article for the Washington Post, Teddy Amenabar notes that practicing optimism by reframing your thoughts around a more positive mindset has been shown to build resilience and lead to better health. And mantras, which are phrases repeated to oneself to elicit calm or confidence, have been shown to improve well-being. Unbridled optimism without a healthy dose of reality is what we call delusion. And yes, delusions of grandeur can be dangerous, but in the past year, I've noticed a shift in how delusion has been perceived. Instead of viewing it as embarrassing or cringy, delusion, for a certain type of person, can be wielded as a tool. People are starting to treat delusion as a sort of placeholder for confidence and even entitlement.
Nah, cause there's really nothing that I love more than a delusional ass bitch. Y'all are real as fuck. Like, yeah, you're 5'2", but you still the next Bella Hadid, bitch. Get into it. Like, yeah, you're failing your classes, but you're still this generation's closest thing to Einstein. Let's not get it confused.
The reframing of delusion really kicked off with this viral TikTok by Kiara Lewis. I can't find the original video, but a bunch of people have stitched it and detailed their experiences of how being delusional worked in their favor.
Be delusional. Fuck what everybody talk about this whole be realistic.
Being delusional is my favorite cheat code of life. You have to be absolutely fucking delusional.
So now that we all have gathered the fact that it's going to get done and it's going to work out in your favor.
Lil Nas X even mentioned it in an acceptance speech.
A few days ago, I was scrolling on TikTok. Just let me finish. And there was this girl, and she was like, you guys should be delusional. She was telling everybody that they should be delusional. And that didn't make sense to me. And then I thought about it, and I wouldn't be where I am right now in my life and career if I weren't delusional. Believing that I could drop out of school and become international success within a year is delusional.
The sentiment of being delusional isn't exactly tied to the law of attraction, but there's still a lot of overlap. The premise of both ideas is to believe what you want is yours, to act like what you want is yours, and you will get what you want. At worst, delusion is harmful and can manifest itself in mental illnesses like narcissistic personality disorder. But at best, when used as a tool, delusion can improve people's lives. If you're not a naturally confident person or have grown up in a world that constantly tells you that you are not enough, delusion is almost necessary to succeed. I don't think it's a coincidence that on TikTok, the idea of being delusional was popularized by a Black creator. Delusion is like a black person's version of entitlement. It's basically a more concise term for the maxim, carry yourself with the confidence of a mediocre straight white man. White people have entitlement because this country and this world has been set up in such a way that when you are white, you might face barriers, but your skin color surely isn't one of them. You have precedent and proof that you can do whatever you want and nothing will get in the way, particularly if you are a straight, white, able-bodied man. Black people don't have that. Up until 1965, you could be legally discriminated against because of the color of your skin. And I'm just talking about this on a big picture scale. If your race has been materially oppressed and deprived of basic rights for hundreds of years, daring to dream and then creating a future where you are free has the essence of delusion. And my goal isn't to trivialize the breaking down of systemic barriers by comparing that to being delusional. Rather, it's to emphasize just how powerful delusion can be. Even though being delusional sounds like this airy-fairy thing, like just think harder and your life will change, I know from experience that it's not as simple as that. In order for any sort of delusion to manifest in the real world, your actions must align with your goals. I think delusion can help you start and it can help you cross the finish line, but you have to quite literally run the race, whatever that may be for you. One of my greatest hits of being delusional is when I told myself I would graduate debt-free, and at the time I had $60,000 in private loans with criminal interest rates as a sophomore in college. And guess what? The delusion worked. I graduated debt-free, but it wasn't all in my head. I was actually trying to make my actions align with my goal. I was very strategically applying to scholarships. I was contributing the little money I had from my minimum wage job to pay off interest that had already accrued. I became an RA so I wouldn't have to pay for housing. And then this YouTube channel that I've had since 2012 started making me money after several years of posting, and by the grace of God, I was able to graduate with no debt. The moral of this story is that I do believe in delusion, but I realize how lucky and blessed and privileged I was to be in that position. I am not here to be a delusion evangelist. That's just my experience, and I do want to emphasize that delusion requires action. I think it would be silly to say that anyone can graduate debt-free with delusion, and more importantly, I shouldn't have had to be delusional in the first place. First of all, I don't think we should live in a world where college costs $80,000 a year. Second of all, I don't think banks should be allowed to lend predatory private student loans with 11% interest rates to 18-year-olds with no financial knowledge. Unfortunately, delusion is the best option when so many things about the system we live in are messed up. You shouldn't have to delude yourself out of student loans. There should be laws for that. I think the unfortunate thing about the rhetoric of delusion and the law of attraction is that it can be spun into a new age bootstrap narrative. Problems that are systemic can be blamed on individuals who are not thinking positively enough. I think the delusional mindset, law of attraction, and the like can be a great tool for individuals to achieve their goals. However, it's not a replacement for systemic, meaningful change, and treating it as such is fruitless. You can't tell someone to think himself out of hunger or poverty. With that said, yes, I believe in manifestation and delusion, and I realize that you have to have faith and, at least in some sense, a charmed life to be able to do so. But at this point, the delusional mindset for me is like a vehicle that I'm using to get to the point where I can actually fully believe and feel confident in myself. Because, as the saying goes, you gotta fake it till you make it. Anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I would love to hear your thoughts on lucky girl syndrome, delusional mindset, and the law of attraction below. And I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!